The first unit of the year is called Different People, Different Lives. And the central idea for this unit is that empathy, tolerance, and respect are essential attitudes in a diverse world. So what we're doing with this unit is we're exploring issues of prejudice, discrimination, and stereotyping. As part of this unit, we read a book called The K. It's written by Theodore Taylor, and it's based in the Caribbean in 1940. Okay, so everybody, during this unit, we all read The K, yeah? Now, do you remember there was a moment in the story where Philip says to Timothy, we asked him this question, he says, Timothy, do you come from Africa? And Timothy says, I don't know anything about a place called Africa. I've been brought up here in the Caribbean. I've lived here my whole life. Now, at the time, there were a few of you who said that you knew about the slave trade, yeah? And how Africans have been brought from Africa over to the Caribbean to work as slaves, yeah, on the plantations in the Caribbean. Do you remember? And I thought that, but some of you weren't, you know, didn't really seem to know so very much about the slave trade, so I thought it would be really good to read this book, okay? From Slave Ship to Freedom Road. So we're going to be exploring this book today, and maybe it will give us some more information about the slave trade so that we can better understand the slave trade, yeah? I've chosen two routines today to use to explore the book. First of all, we're going to use the See, Think, Wonder routine. So I want them to focus, first of all, on looking at the painting. What can they see? What might be going on here? What's the big idea in the story, in the painting first? And then when they've done that, they can read the text. And then to make sense of the text, they'll use the sentence, phrase, word routine. So what I want you to do is today you're going to get a piece of paper like this. It's going to have a painting. It's going to have some text at the bottom. And what I want you to do first of all in your groups is just to focus on looking at the painting. Before you read anything, I want you to look really, really carefully at the picture. I want you to use the See, Think, Wonder in your conversation to look incredibly detailed at all the little details in the picture, yeah? Because the beauty of that routine is that it slows us down, yeah? And it helps to focus our attention on all the details that are in the painting. They're beautiful paintings and they tell their own story, really. So look at the paintings and ask each other, what can we see? What do we think's going on here? Does it bring up any questions in our minds? Are we wondering about anything? And then when you think you've really learnt a lot from the painting, then you can go to the text and you can read the text together. And to make sense of the text, we're going to use the sentence, phrase, word routine. Okay, now we have used this routine before. And this routine helps us to really capture what's most important in a piece of writing. Now with the sentence, what you're looking for is a sentence from the text that you think captures a big idea in this part of the story. And then you're going to look for a phrase. And it has to be a phrase which isn't in your original sentence. Okay? It's got to be a separate phrase. And you're choosing it because it tells you a little bit more about what's going on. And you also think it's important. Yeah? And then for the word, it's just one single word, a very strong word, something that for you feels significant. Okay. Now the idea is that when you choose the sentence, the phrase, and the word, just those small snippets from the whole text will be like a summary of the text. It's going to capture what's important in this part of the story. Yeah, Damon?
So the word can be part of the phrase or the sentence?
Yes, or it can be separate. Now what you're going to do is you're working in groups of 3. So I want you to write down what each of you have said. You need to also explain to each other why you've chosen the sentence, why you chose that phrase, and why you think that word is important. You're going to have that discussion together, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to come together again as a whole class, and you as a group are going to explain for that page what was your sentence, what was your phrase, what was your word. And that way, without reading the whole book, everybody will start to get an idea of what's going on at each part of the story. Okay, so we'll build the story together. We're missing so many students today because so many people have got flu. Yeah, okay. So the first group for page 1 will be Hannah, Lucas and Amber. Okay, you take that one. There you go. Yeah. And the next group, page 2, Yui, Khan and Sandro. It was clear to me that several of the children really didn't know anything about the slave trade. So I'm curious to see how they react to this story and how they're making connections between this story, what they've been reading in the K, and also the other activities that we've had during this unit as well.
Maybe, look, her hand is out. Or maybe she's the mother and father, and they're having a disagreement. So maybe he actually kind of.
They're all black. Yeah, they're all black people. Okay. And they don't look very happy, do they?
They look really angry. Look at them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Looks like they've been in pain.
a lot of
Real
And
they don't have any hair. Look at all the hair.
It looks like they've been shaved.
Maybe it's part of their uniform.
And there are quite a few bodies in the water.
There are 23 actually.
So, and then some of the bodies are they look dead, so they look like they're not moving.
Yeah, it's like the waves get really big in the ocean and they like bring you under, you hit your head on something.
Yeah. And the ship looks quite big.
Yeah, it looks like
very big.
I'm reading the second part of the chain, Timothy of the chain, and it says that these ships, they look like really pretty on the outside, but like really bad on the inside. They're all men.
Look pretty strong. They don't look weak.
Yeah, it looks like they have been taken away, and they also look like they regret for doing something.
Especially this picture.
Yeah, maybe because if they're all men, maybe they had a family and children and wives they all left behind. If they've been imported somewhere.
Yeah, maybe they're sad. Like, because most of them don't even have an expression.
It's pretty, but there's lots of clouds. It looks maybe like there could be a storm.
That's a weird shape for a ship. Like usually they're just pointed. It has a lot of sails, like 1, 2, 3.
Could be that they did a campaign to stand up for him, and he was the leader or something. And
Maybe he was chief of the village.
yeah, maybe. So what does it make you wonder?
I wonder what's going to happen to them. They don't look like they're in the best conditions.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like they've got a lot of money because of what they're wearing.
Yeah. Probably a lot of money or not, they'd still get sent. I guess because of their skin.
Yeah. Yeah, should we read the text now?
God.
And I can't read because this guy's walking against his own type.
On his neck though.
Yeah, I know, it's like you can choke.
And it's always like, and then it goes to his hands, and then it's like on his ankles there.
And if you pull, then you can choke.
That part is really like violent, you know?
Yeah, because it's some. They were just drops.
Yeah.
They weren't really put in the water. It's kind of scary.
No, they just laid there. And
Maybe they were tired.
they laid there without no food or anything. They just sun.
That's probably why they got sick, and then that's why they died.
Yeah, I think that one is trying to think maybe what will happen to the future.
Looks like there's like hope inside there. A little.
Why don't you start then to read the text? Because I think when you read the text here, you might find yourself getting quite surprised at reading the text.
To have value in the heart of another, to value another in your heart. Is that not what it means to be a human? If I value you in my heart, I would rather hurt myself than hurt you. If I value you in my heart. Slavery was part of a business. The slave owner wanted to make as much money as he could, but what happened if the price of cotton fell 1 year and the slave owner could not pay his bill?
We've used the sentence, phrase, word, routine in class before. So what I'm going to be looking for is to see if children are more confident about making their choices and explaining their choices and justifying their choices to the other people in the group. The other thing that I'm going to be listening for is the language they use to explain their thinking and whether or not they're using the vocabulary that we've been exploring during this unit, whether or not they're making that their own.
Like it explains like they've been like taken away and they're like really, really angry. So should I write this out?
Yes.
You guys can choose while I'm writing.
I think I like the sentence, when we understand in the heart, each of us is less alone because they seem they could be thinking, oh no, now I'm here by myself. But if they understand each other, then they feel more secure, maybe.
Well, I think this one that says they do not care what your real name is or who you really are, because it just shows how they didn't care that they had lives, they didn't care that they had a family.
The phrase that I chose, guys, was the slaves ran away and disappeared, because I think it really shows like how much they hated being slaves and like that they just wanted to get out of there. Yeah. And like that they really didn't.